Mark, how are you today?
Fantastic, Nick. Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. I've already learned something I didn't know about Pittsburgh. So there we go. Every day's a school day.
Great. Mark, could you give our listeners the 411 on who you are, what you bring today, and a little bit about your story?
All right, sure. I'll do that very quickly. I help consultants, B2B consultants, coaches find rapid revenue growth by finding and closing what we call whale deals. We're not interested in the little beginner coaches and consultants. We help them find CEOs, multi-million-dollar businesses, or at least having a business. Sorry to criticize, but the nature of the beast these days is a lot of people that say they got a business don't do it. My background, I started at IBM, Siemens. I sold to businesses like Pepsi and BMW into the startup world. I hit 30, decided I wanted to do my own thing. I want freedom and corporate. I went there to get it. I didn't get it. So, we started a few businesses, had a few failures. Got going online 2017. It's now 2021, and we're running multi-million. So it's been a good journey.
That's fantastic, and I like that you use the word journey. That means that it wasn't overnight. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of work, right?
Yeah. I always say it's never a destination, it's the journey. And the journey is where we get the satisfaction, it's where we get the learnings. And I was actually having a conversation the other day with a friend. When I look back to the days when we were broke and we were struggling, I appreciated those days. You don't sometimes feel it at the time, but yeah, it's all on the way, not in the way. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, I like that. So can you take us through maybe some of the failures you had before you got to your successes, and kind of not so much focus on the actual failures, but focus on the mindset of what you were going through in your head when you try something and you get up against the wall and failed, and you had to get back on and do it again.
Yeah, so I'll just pre-frame this preface this by saying how important this is, and thank you for asking such a great question. Because if you look in the personal development world or the mindset world, whatever you want to call it, I mean, I've got all the books back there. I've done everything from the motivation speeches from Tony Robbins through to kind of the more woo-woo stuff with Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe DiMartini. They all have their own way of framing this. Tony Robbins says problems are gifts. Dr. John DiMartini talks about seeing as everything is neutral, even like something as traumatic as divorce. Most of the people we meet who got divorced 10 years later, it's the best thing that happened to us. And that leads to the idea that nothing is inherently bad. It's just the frame or the focus we put around it. In my case, and once we don't just say that, we believe that, that's when the fun starts to happen. That's when we start to try new things. That's when we start to put ourselves out there and really learn. In my case, I'm talking to you from Bogacz, Colombia. I am British, but as I just mentioned, I had enough of corporate and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I did, I just packed my bags and took a year out, and that turned into 10 years on. And I started a business here because when I came to Colombia, it was just opening up. I was teaching businesses here to go international, to sell internationally, because they didn't know how to do that back then. And that failed, simply because of external circumstances. The government changed the visa process. I was no longer to have a visa. I'd invested lots of money in it. I'd got staff working for me. Overnight shut down. That was one of the big failures. But what it did teach me is that it wasn't a failure. It was all on the way, not in the way. I learned how to recruit staff. I learned how to run a business. I learned that I didn't have enough leads. I learned that I shouldn't leverage myself too fast. I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in ourselves, but as Jeff Bezos says, don't bet the business. I bet the business. And that took a long time to come back from. So I think it taught me that everything we do, as long as we look at it from the right perspective, is moving us towards where we want to be. And in this day and age where a lot of people are conditioning us to think things should happen overnight, yeah, maybe it will happen overnight, but and I'm not saying that it won't happen for you. It's just look at what happens with the majority, because the majority of people have to work hard. They've got the failures. They've got all the things you don't see behind the scenes. And it's very easy to forget that when we go into our Facebook feed or our LinkedIn feed or our Instagram feed, whatever your choice is. People are telling us it can happen overnight. But the reality is you're on the way, just keep at it. And it's like people say, I'm not a big drinker. I don't do that. And that's changed my life. And some people say, well, lots of entrepreneurs, they can drink and take whatever they want to be successful. I said, well, that's the exception. Do you want to increase your probability by doing what works for most of the people most of the time? Or do you want to, be the exception? Because I know what'll work. So that's kind of my perspective on it, Nick.
Well, it sounds like you made some sacrifices along the way too. Then, when you're talking about making the tough choices, is that fair
Yep.
to say as well? That you made some
I,
sacrifices and decided that, hey, if I'm going to go on this particular journey and path, I need to make some really really hard choices here and sacrifices.
I think sacrifices are part of the journey. I mean, everyone has their own flavor of sacrifice, and I can't remember the name of the book, but they talk about hinge habits or cascade habits, and everyone has what think of a line of dominoes. If you flick the domino, you just flick that first domino, and then all the dominoes fall over. It's the same with habits. Everyone has that one habit that can make a big change for their life, but whether they're prepared to change that habit, that's clearly, it might be spending time with a certain amount of people, it might be an addiction. An addiction doesn't have to be just alcohol. I'm not demonizing alcohol. I'm not here to impose on anyone's free will. Addiction can go to the gym too much. Like meditation can be an addiction if we do it too much, and it takes from our life. Do you know what I mean? I'm not demonizing any one thing. I'm just saying that what is that hinge habit that people are not prepared to sacrifice that can move them forwards? That's something I believe in strongly. And yeah, certainly I've changed a lot. And it's only when we've done it and we look back and realize how much difference it made, That makes sense?
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense, and I think along the journey, there's where you have to figure out your time management. But I like also what you said about uh, learning from your failures and moving forward with them, and learning the staffing and maybe the hiring and some other things,
Yep.
and taking that moving forward. But what about some other learning? What about like learning in your free time? Reading. I see a ton of books behind you. I would imagine you're an avid reader. Like, how important is it for you to keep learning and not just accept where you are right now?
Oh yeah, this is fundamental, and your audience hopefully will appreciate what I say. I mean, what I'm about to say, some of you may disagree with. All I ask is that at least you disagree with what I say, and you can not like what I say. Just stay cool with me, right? It's very different to not like what I say versus not like me, but a lot of coaches, consultants, and business owners these days, they struggle with their marketing, and they're like, oh, I don't know why my marketing's struggling. In order to market well, you need to have something new to say to the market. And if you don't know anything new, then it's very difficult to say something new. And the same thing is, if you want to market successfully and attract people, you need to teach people something useful, right? But if you don't know something useful and you don't learn something useful, then it's very difficult to teach something useful. And too many business owners, they don't make that effort to learn in order to teach stuff that's new, in order to teach stuff that's useful, in order to differentiate from the marketplace. I every morning, including this morning, I'm listening to Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Fantastic book on Audible. It's got some interviews with it. I combine my running or my walking or getting a coffee with listening. It doesn't have to be separate. And if I like the book, I'll buy the hard copy too. The audio is kind of the litmus test, and then I'll buy it and study it, because you gotta know something new. It's no secret there's a lot of saturation. It's no secret that a lot of stuff is the same when we go into our feed. You got to learn the stuff. It's like filling up the well. You got to fill up the well. You cannot draw water from an empty well. I'm not informed today with my language, but there we go. That's my opinion on learning. You got to fill up the well.
Is there any particular books that you go back to and read over and over again that you constantly study?
Yeah, I've got one on my desk here. This is a fantastic book, Oversubscribed, by Daniel Priestley. It's a very quick read, but the concepts in it are fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. I go back also to Dr. John Demartini, The Values Factor, and I'll highlight stuff in there. And some autobiographies. I think it's important to have a mix of concepts, business concepts, and autobiographies, and the more traditional textbook type stuff. But yeah, I'd recommend this. It's a very quick read for everyone. If you're running a business, Oversubscribed is a fantastic read. It really is. And I shifted my business based on this book. We now do a lot of live webinars and live 5-day challenges, when in the past we used to run auto webinars. I just enjoy them more. And he has a concept he calls the event-driven business. And that's something I really subscribe to.
Has there been any particular autobiographies that stick out to you that you really enjoy that made you look at that person a little bit different than before you read it?
Three. Three fantastic ones. I always recommend this to people on my challenges. And I did that on Friday, so they're fresh in the mind. The first, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It makes you realize how the ups and downs, even these billionaires go through the ups and downs, clinging onto the business. Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. There's the British link there. I obviously grew up in the UK and I've frequented his stores, been in his Virgin Record stores and grown up with him on the news. And the third one, which is a little bit out there, Little Black Stretchy Pants by Chip Wilson, Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon. That was a fantastic read, just in the way he speaks about looking at trends and thinking 5 years away, the way he looks into his avatar and gives them a name and goes down to their behaviors. And I think that the fantastic thing about the three that I've named is certainly on the second two, when you listen to the audiobook, you're actually listening to Richard Branson, you're actually listening to Chip Wilson. And there's a lot to be said when you're actually listening to the billionaire. Do you know what I mean? And which words they emphasize, how they think about things. And I like to think, and maybe I'm just living in the clouds, but I like to think if I listen to someone for 10 hours, maybe 0.0001% of this billionaire can seep into my brain. Do you know what I mean? And if I can get 0.0001 of them, that's good for me. That's worth me spending my time listening to them rather than watching the news. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of people, when they hear the word mentorship, they think that they have to knock on someone's door and find a mentor. What they don't realize is that they can find somebody like a Richard Branson and watch every YouTube channel and find out about him, read all his books, watch as much. There's so much information out there. And you could have a billionaire mentor if you know how to do it and put your resources there, right?
Exactly. I think it's important to have a bounce board, and by bounce board I mean someone that can call out your BS or whatever you want to say, and someone can go, "That's a crazy idea. You should do this." That's important. It's important we have that role in terms of a mentorship, but that's a very different rule type of mentor to reading the books. I mean, take you oversubscribed. I would argue I've spent a lot of money on personal development, online courses. I've had my fair share of shiny object syndrome. Consolidated in this 5-hour audio book is all you need to know to get a business going. It's better than a lot of the stuff out there. And you're coming to the source, because a lot of the stuff you buy these days is a copy of a copy of a copy, right? This dude has got a multi-million-dollar business, global, and has done it multiple times, and it's just written by him, and it's fantastic. So yeah, I would totally agree with what you say, fundamentally to my bones.
Is there anything in particular that you're working on right now, like as a particular skill that you're trying to learn or master, or something that you're spending a lot of time on trying to develop?
All right. So yeah, absolutely. I made the decision. So I did, nearly 15 years B2B sales, and that was all around cold calling and messaging and outreach. And I calculated 20,000 hours spent on that and learning from people on that. According to most measures of mastery, that's enough time to become a master. Obviously, you'd be learning something different every day. If you go in there and learn something for a week and then repeat that every day for all that time, you're not learning something. But I got there. But back in 2018, I consciously made the decision to learn webinars, because I decided that I wanted to be able to do one-to-many as well as outreach. I wanted people to attracted to me through the way I speak and the way I do things. That's progressed onto longer speaking. So yes, I'm actively looking to learn speaking and one-to-many right now, and I've been developing it since 2018. I think it's a fundamentally important skill, and I think a lot of businesses that rely on outreach, that rely on chasing people, they're selling themselves short, because I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. I'm just saying it's important to have another few strings to your bow, because it can get a business going, but it's very hard to scale a business. Yes, you can hire people to set appointments, but it's a thankless task. It really is. The energy's off, you're chasing. And when you're chasing, you're not an authority, you're in beta, not alpha. There's just so much to be said for being able to speak to people and bring them around to your way of thinking, and that energy transference from a live event or speaking, So yeah, I'm working on that.
And when you're talking about hiring, are you looking to hire people that have similar skills to you, or are you looking for people that are motivated? Like what are you looking for when you're looking for an employee? Like what's that sign that when you're sitting there in an interview, yeah, this guy could be part of my team? Like what are you really looking for? Is this when they start talking about their self-growth? Is it when they're trying to tell you how great they've been in the last 10 years? What is it that really sticks that makes you think that this could be somebody that could come in and help our team and help the overall message and continue the journey?
I think I've made a few mistakes here. And I think we all have, right?
Yes.
And what I've learned to look for in my own way of doing things is I look for attitude, and I look for a growth mindset, and I look at personality before I look at skills. Massively before I look at skills. It goes to say you can't teach a fish to ride a bicycle. So you've got to be looking at the person with the right attributes. Yes. But if they've got the right attributes, I will take someone that I can train and that will learn and has a growth mindset every time over someone that's got a lot of experience in their field, depending on the hire. Did that make sense?
Yes.
So that's critical. And I learned that the hard way because I come from a 9 to 5 background, and there seems to be a lenience there on the resume, the skills, what school you went to, list of responsibilities. But I look for a fit every time. I look for someone that wants to grow with a business. I look for someone I want to talk to, and that served me well ever since. Yes, it takes a bit more time to train, but here's the analogy, right? We did a lot of paid advertising, and we still do. And when I look to hire an ad manager, I look to hire a copywriter who I can train as an ad manager, not someone who's an ad manager, because copywriting is a lot more of a difficult skill to learn. And you can like a monkey can run the ads dashboard. They just need to be able to process data, as opposed to someone doing the dashboard and having to teach copywriting. Copywriting is a lot more of a difficult skill, and you can buy them the attitude and so forth. So that's the way I try and look at things.
When you're talking about paid advertising, where do you spend your money for paid advertising? Is it particularly Facebook or
Facebook,
Instagram or LinkedIn?
Facebook,
Go ahead.
Facebook, Instagram. We've done a bit on YouTube. We've done Google Ads, but Facebook's always worked well for me. LinkedIn's not quite ready yet. Bless them. They're doing their best to do it. You can get LinkedIn working if you've got a super high ticket offer. Absolutely. But it's not quite there. It doesn't scale up as well. I mean, they've got a different revenue model. If we strip it down to the bare bones, LinkedIn makes a lot of their money off subscription. They have the sales navigator, the premium plans. That's a great recurring revenue model. They're doing well. I'm sure they could add billions on the bottom line if they got their platform dialed in. But people don't spend as much time on LinkedIn as they do as Facebook. There's not as many people on LinkedIn as there are Facebook, and we can't go against the math. Facebook is still the number one platform for me when it comes to advertising. It's just fantastic. It really is.
Have you done anything with groups on Facebook? Have you built any groups or
Yeah,
following?
I like.
What's your
Yeah,
following like on Facebook?
so is it okay to just answer that question from a level up before I go into the groups?
Oh, 100%.
So, and your audience would appreciate me going to the tactics, would they? And
Yeah,
the things that work.
absolutely. Yes.
So I believe there's 4 levels of teaching when it comes to growing a business online. And the bottom level of teaching is the tactics. It's asking about the groups. It's asking about the message that works. It's templates. A lot of programs and things that are sold in the feed teach tactics. They go, you've got to build a group right now, and you put this in the welcome message, you ask these questions, you write this post, or on LinkedIn, you write this message, you connect with these people doing this such. That's a tactical level. And that's limited because the problem with the online market space is marketers ruin everything, right? As soon as something starts working, everyone starts copying everyone. And the second problem is people come into programs and they don't behave consistently in a way that's that's inconsistent with their beliefs. They don't like the template, or the template doesn't work for their market, so they ask how to adjust it, and the coach or consultant isn't capable of doing that because they don't understand the next level up, which is strategy. Strategy is the next level up, why we do something, when we do it, the thinking behind it. And a lot of people get stuck in this tactical trap of doing Facebook groups, then something doesn't work and they can't get the support they need because the coach or consultant doesn't understand the strategy. Next level up is, the fundamentals of human psychology, authority, reciprocity. We do more for people who do something for us. If someone's positioned on a stage or taller, all the intricacies of studying people like Cialdini and the fundamentals of human behavior. And I would venture that everyone listening to this interview right now in some way, shape or form is dealing with other human beings, unless you're off to Mars, and in which case that's another subject. Talk to your therapist. But the reality is, and the people they go, how I understand how this works, I understand why this works, but it's not working for me. How can I change this? Up to the next level, which is the principles. The next level beyond that, I would argue, is essence. For my wife, that's religion. For me, it's probably energy and just having my best energy every single day. We all have our own reasons for getting out of bed. Going back to your question about groups, groups are fantastic, staying at the principal level, because you're the authority. You're on stage. You're seen as the person that's in control. You're seen as the person that runs that group. So you automatically have a level of authority. So I would always recommend people do groups, and we push paid ads into groups. I actually push people from ads into LinkedIn and into groups, just because I can start the conversation with them. So absolutely, you should have one, not because it's the tactic of the day, but simply because you're an authority and you can position yourself as such in the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's spot on. I think it's important when people hear about the paid advertising that they get a little bit of information about it, because there's so much out there about it and it can go in a bunch of different ways. But I think that you definitely can tell that you have an expertise in it. So we appreciate you sharing that with us for sure. You mentioned one word in there that really just stuck out to me, and I feel like you're probably the right person to expand on it for us. And that's the word energy. Can you talk about energy? And I'm assuming we're talking about positive energy. And would you mind going into how you get the energy every day? You got a nice big smile there, and I can't wait to hear your answer to how important energy is.
It's a big topic. So let me just explain, right? I am not super woo-woo, but I do listen to some people that are super woo-woo. Woo-woo meaning manifestation out there, but I'm not on the continuum. The continuum meaning I'm not super far out there. Mercury is in retrograde, the moon's there, so I'm going to do my thing. I believe in a science-based approach to energy. And if we boil everything down, and I have a YouTube habit, I'm not making any, by the way, some of this stuff on YouTube around physics, we couldn't get access to this when I was growing up, right? But if we boil it down to the atom, everything absolutely is energy. And when we do a live event, we can hear someone saying exactly the right thing, but something deep down tells us that they don't know what they're talking about, because simply because our energy is betraying us. If people are lying in a live environment, subconsciously we're trained through our life to pick up the tonality, to pick up all the things that are going on, to just pick up what is happening, what is not. And if you do not have great energy, if you're not in the state to interact with people, if you're worried, if you're being pulled all over in your head, then it's very difficult to grow a business, because sales calls and marketing, I would argue, is state control. What is state control? It's having the right energy. It really is. And I say to people that you can say all the right words, but people are going to pick up more from your energy. It's all hidden in lots of the studies, non-verbal versus verbal communication. A lot of studies say the majority is non-verbal. You may or may not like me based on my energy today. And I tell you what, I damn well love that you make one of those conclusions rather than just staying in the middle. I like to say what I think. I like to put my views across, and that's me. I'm direct. And is that a good way of describing where I go with energy?
Yeah, I think so. I like what you said about being able to pick up, the truth when people are talking, because it is true. There's a lot of times you're talking to somebody that something just doesn't feel right. Or maybe when you meet someone for the first time and within the first 30 seconds, you're like, wow, I really like this person. And then you meet somebody else and you're like, I don't really like this person. I don't know if I believe everything that's coming out. And then there's sometimes I'm going to wait and see a little bit, because I can't figure out where we're at, because you can't figure out the energy they're putting off. Is it nervous energy? Because I think sometimes when you first meet somebody, people do have nervous energy, and that takes a little bit for them to settle down. You get a good read, but I like that approach to it.
Yeah, and a very wise man once said to me, people see us the way we see ourselves. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, I really
Yeah.
do. And,
Yeah.
you know, when I was needy, I got needy clients. When I was broke, I got broke clients. We attract who we are, you know, is the other way of putting it.
Yeah, there's a lot to attraction. I think you're right. The mindset of where you think you are, and I really like when people talk about trying to dress or act in like you're already in that position that you want to get to, because there's something to be said for that. That you can't just say, okay, I'm gonna be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. So you just start, you wait to start acting like that. Like you have to act like that from the very beginning,
You
and then
do.
it just all of a sudden everything starts to attract it. You find the right
Yep.
people, you find the right deals, and
Yep.
you look back and you don't even realize that it was all happening around you at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree. I really agree. And that's my philosophy to business and life. It really is. A lot of
So,
people are too focused on the how and the tactic, when instead of becoming the person that can do the how and the tactic. That's how I'd summarize it.
yeah, Mark, I'm gonna have you repeat that about the how, because that is just one thing that needs to sit in there. So can you talk
Yeah.
about that real quick again? Repeat it.
So too many people are focused on the how, the tactic, the template, the connect message, the way to do the video, rather than becoming the person capable of implementing the how or the tactic to the level they need to in order to be successful in business.
Mark, you have been a fantastic guest today. Would you mind telling everybody where we can find you, where we can get more of you, where they can learn more about what you do?
All right, so I learned the hard way. Talking about mistakes at the beginning, I used to have a really difficult to pronounce URL, and everyone got lost, and I wasted my time. But yeah, I now have the URL getmarkshelp.com, and we've just got a little mini course we give away, which covers a lot of the topics we've discussed today, some tactics, as well as something becoming the person that can implement the tactics. It will get you going on LinkedIn. It will also help you on Facebook, because it's fundamentals. So yeah, www.getmarkshelp.com. And I just want to thank you, Nick. I've really enjoyed having this conversation. And Jason, before that, you guys have a great setup, and it felt really good.
Great. And now it's time that we get to solve the equation to Mark's success. Mark, are you ready for our 7 rapid fire questions?
Oh, more than ready. I'm always ready.
All right. Best seminar or teaching you've ever been to?
Ooh, that's got me. I say Joe Dispenza. Meditation changed my life.
Favorite item you bought recently under $100?
Oversubscribed. It's $20. You're not buying this book for $20? Like, just, yeah, it's awesome.
Name an idol or hero of yours that you've met in person.
Stuart Pearce. You're not going to get that reference because I'm British. He was an England footballer in the 90s. He was my hero.
Favorite book to give as a gift?
U Squared by Price Pritchard. That's U for yellow, O for, I don't know, for an octopus, U for umbrella with the 2, as in multiplied, U Squared. It's a 45-minute read, changes people's lives.
Absolutely. I can definitely say I recommend that book completely. I actually had the chance to meet Price at a Bob Proctor seminar in Los Angeles about 2 years ago. Yeah, so excellent book.
It is. I study it.
Yes. So something you do every morning before you brush your teeth.
Meditation, without fail. I need to settle.
Your personal mantra or favorite quote?
Oh, that's a good one. You've caught me then. There's multiple depending on the day, and it just, but I think life is a daring venture or nothing at all. I can't remember the name of the lady that says that, but it's something that I believe in, is a daring adventure or nothing at all. And that quote is by Helen Keller.
And place you go to decompress and reset.
Inside my head when I meditate. No external focus. I think if we have to rely on external to reset, we're screwed. We've got to go internally to reset. I believe that.
Mark, thank you so much for being on the Business Equation today. It was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.